What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for July 8th, 2022. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. Cheap plug right off the bat, better than anything you probably saw on SmackDown last night. My exclusive interview is now up with WWE Hall of Famer The Undertaker. The second one, not just the first one. The first one went up earlier this year over WrestleMania weekend. We had a second chat with the Phenom a few weeks ago, I think 2.5 weeks ago at this point. The article went up yesterday. The video went up yesterday here on the channel. Haven't had a chance to properly promote it yet on social media, but check it out when you get a chance right here on the channel in video form. Almost 15 minutes with the WWE Hall of Famer himself. So just want to throw that out there. Like I said, that was, in my opinion, not to toot my own horn here, but better than anything you probably saw on SmackDown last night, aside from that great opening segment between, Heyman and Reigns and their promo. I thought that was far and away the best part about this show. Otherwise, another fairly abysmal edition of SmackDown. It went along fairly well following that opening segment. They had a good squash with the Viking Raiders. Nakamura and Kaiser had a fine match, teasing something with Nakamura and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Sign me the fuck up for that. We had some solid SummerSlam developments on the show, but the back half specifically just pissed me the fuck off. I mean, that was an absolute waste of time, but let's get into it. The show opened, as I mentioned, with the return of the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. They have all new Bloodline graphics, and a lot of people don't like the CGI shit they do, and I don't love it usually myself. It's kind of distracting. I've just kind of grown used to it by this point after they've done it for so long now, for so many years. But they added the Usos to the Roman Reigns like CGI graphic when Roman comes out, and I thought that was pretty fucking cool, like them bowing or whatever, or doing the ones thing when Roman does his pose or whatever. So I thought that was cool. The first time Roman has appeared on SmackDown in 3 weeks since he last defended the championship on the June 17th show that Vince McMahon was also on. He was in the news yesterday. We won't get into that here, but he's in a lot of trouble right now, as he probably should be. That's an absolute mess. Really, like I said, nothing to really get into here. It's pretty self-explanatory. The guy is fucked. He was doing a lot of fucking, which is what got him in that issue in the first place. Credit to Solomonster for that joke, but we'll see how that plays out and see where it goes. I'm not 100% convinced that he's probably out. At this point, I would have to think he should be. He has to be. Whether he will be is the question. But anyway, that was the last time we saw Roman on SmackDown. It was 3 weeks ago on the June 17th show. He beat Riddle. Brock Lesnar came back. We haven't heard from Roman on the show since then. I honestly completely forgot until his music hit that Roman was on this show, because we haven't seen him in 3 weeks, and I didn't watch Raw live. I remember seeing a commercial for Roman, maybe during NXT, but that was 4 days ago, I forgot. So that was a pleasant surprise. And I thought he and Heyman specifically did a fantastic job addressing Brock and hyping up the SummerSlam match. You had this weird thing with Theory coming out before the commercial break. Roman made his entrance. Theory comes out. We go to break. We come back from break. Theory's not there. Roman and Heyman end their promo. Theory comes out again to confront them. We knew he wasn't cashing in here, and Roman's never on the show, so Theory's got to pick his spots. He's not dumb for doing that, because Roman's never on the show, so when can you possibly cash in on the guy? We also found out, I think Brock is going to be on Raw this coming Monday, which is pretty cool. We haven't seen Brock on Raw since, I think, the go-home show before WrestleMania, because he was on SmackDown a few weeks ago, and before that, I think he and Roman were on that go-home Raw, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so I thought Roman and Heyman did a great job hyping up the Brock match. Am I excited for it? Not by any means. We've just seen the match so many times, and even with the last man standing stipulation, I just can't bring myself to care personally. But I thought the mic work here was great. I feel like this might be the peak of the program. What more can you really say about a feud we've already seen so many fucking times, even with this dynamic? With Roman as the heel, Brock as the babyface. They breathed new life into the feud when they did the double turn last year, or when Brock came back as the babyface. But we even saw that dragged out from August through April. That's an 8-month period. That's a long fucking feud. And they were on the show more often than not in that time frame. So, even with 3 weeks remaining until SummerSlam, I think it's 3 weeks until today, I believe, until the 30th. We've already seen and heard it all from these two, so maybe they don't have to appear on the show a ton heading into the show, because the match on paper should just sell itself for a lot of the casual viewers. I can't still bring myself to care, but again, this was far and away the best thing on the entire show. The rest of this review may be fairly brief, because there really isn't a lot to say, but the Viking Raiders knocking off Jinder Mahal and Shanky in about a minute and a half. The Raiders beat up Shanky a few weeks ago, so that's where this stemmed from. This was exactly what it should have been. Raiders, who are now heels, and honestly, I like the music and the look I don't love, but I like their new heel attitude. They've been booked well so far, but honestly, as other people have said, it's hard to care because so many times did they do these renewed pushes and turn people face or heel, and they get a couple of wins under their belt, and then WWE just forgets about it or it doesn't get over due to their own creative issues, the company that is. They blame it on the talent, and they never push them again. They just kind of give up. I feel like that's where this is going. They'll be built up to lose to the New Day, and that'll be it for them. I would love to see this last longer than a month or two. I'm just not confident that's the case because they've never really got a prolonged push on the main roster, even when they were baby faces when they first showed up. They would get a push for a couple weeks, they'd be off the show. Or they would lose, and they would be built back up, and they would lose again. It just would never last longer than a few months. So we'll see how long this one lasts. But so far, so good. They beat the shit out of Mahal and Shanky. And then the New Day came out, cut a promo about having ass-beating cards or something, and then they got their asses beat. So the New Day have been made to look like complete fools so far, but I'm not complaining. I mean, the Raiders got to be built up, and this was the right way to go about it. Gunther up next in the ring with Kaiser, not as opponents, but they were cutting a promo saying they were issuing an open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. Well, it was accepted by a former two-time Intercontinental Champion in Shinsuke Nakamura, and at that point, Gunther decided, well, I'm not going to put my championship on the line after all. So it turned into Nakamura and Kaiser one-on-one. A fairly competitive match. It lasted about 6 or 7 minutes, and it was solid stuff, and Kaiser is a perfectly competent competitor on his own. Nakamura won as he should have, and as a punishment, that was Kaiser's first loss in the main roster, although it really isn't saying much because he's only had one other match so far, I believe, and it was a tag team match with Gunther that they beat Gulak and Ricochet in about a month or two ago. But anyway, Kaiser kind of felt the brunt of it afterward, being chopped several times by Gunther. If that was my fucking punishment, I would do whatever it took to win that match to ensure I do not get chopped by Gunther as many times as Kaiser did. His chest looked brutal. I don't think they're splitting them up. Oh, they're splitting them up already. I don't think they are. I think they're just doing that as a way to make Gunther look more dominant. I mean, they just got called up together. They already broke away Eichner as Giovanni Vinci. I would be very surprised if they were already breaking away Kaiser. I mean, should I be surprised? Probably not. This is WWE after all, but the match was fine. And honestly, listen, I don't want Nakamura to beat Gunther. I think that'd be fucking dumb. Walter, Gunther, whatever, should be undefeated for a while. And not only just that, Nakamura should not be the one to beat him for that championship. Nakamura is already, as I mentioned, a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. Both of those reigns, I mean, people remember him with the championship, but how much can you really remember from those reigns? Probably nothing. He was champion the first time for 6 months and had a total of like 2 or 3 defenses. And then when he was champion this most recent time, from when he beat Apollo Crews for it, I think in August, and then he lost it to Sammy in February maybe, or January, I don't remember. It was one of those two. He lost the championship to Sammy in either February or January. I think it was February. And again, that reign was completely inconsequential as well. So hopefully Gunther can escape that unscathed with the championship intact. But the match itself, if they're really allowed to go in there and have a great match, I think that could be fucking awesome, to be honest with you. Liv Morgan was out next, the new SmackDown Women's Champion, cutting a very similar promo to what you cut on Raw, getting You Deserve a Chance. I feel like I'm in the minority here. I actually like the Liv Morgan promos this week. You know, they're not the most polished things in the world. She's not the greatest mic worker ever. And I've never even been the biggest Liv Morgan fan. I'm not saying people aren't justified in shitting on the promos, because they're not great promos. But honestly, she cares. You know, she's passionate, and it shows she cares, which is more than I can say for a majority of the roster. And it's hard to blame them. I mean, a lot of these championships mean absolutely nothing. So the fact that she's in there showing emotion should be a nice thing. It should be nice that she's in there showing actual, care for the championship that she's holding. And it's hard to do that nowadays when these championships are so abused and misused and whatever. So I like that. I didn't mind the promo. Natalya interrupted her. Ronda Rousey came out as well. I just have no desire to see Liv Morgan versus Natalya at all. We're getting it next week in a championship contenders match. But thankfully, they're heading in the direction of Liv and Ronda one-on-one. And Ronda made the comment that it's harder to stay champion than it is to win the championship. So it sounds like it's not announced yet, but it sounds like they are building to Rousey and Morgan one-on-one for the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. And God bless Liv Morgan. I honestly do not expect her to leave that match as champion. Maybe she scores the fluky win, and then Ronda turns heel on her afterward. But with Bayley on her way back soon, I don't see them turning Bayley. And Charlotte probably back soon as well. And she's, a heel through and through as well. I don't see them turning Ronda, but we'll see. We'll see. We got Rousey and Natalya coming out of the break. Nothing remotely close to the Money in the Bank match. What was funny about this was that Ronda was in her street clothes and had an injured knee, which the way that she was selling the knee looked completely ridiculous, but it's obviously a storyline injury. She went in there and won the match in 2 minutes by completely killing Natalya. Now, it didn't make much sense other than Ronda just being pissed, I guess. It made sense in that respect. You would think Natalya would get the advantage because Rousey came into this match hurt and not prepared, but she just completely destroyed Natalya. I mean, I didn't care about their Money in the Bank match, which was more competitive and technical. This was a straight-up squash. And if they want to make Rousey look like a threat going into SummerSlam, which, she's a threat, obviously, because I honestly expect her to beat Liv, unfortunately, the mission accomplished. But we are getting Natalya and Liv for some reason next week. It probably should have been reversed with Natalya facing Liv here, Liv winning, and then Rousey facing Natalya next week and squashing her to take her out of the title picture indefinitely, if not forever, but whatever. We had the second serving of, no pun intended, I guess, of the Maximum Male Models, Max Dupri's Marseille and Mansois, serving up their 2022 tennis collection. I didn't have a chance to talk about this last week. I didn't do a SmackDown review before Money in the Bank last Saturday. I just didn't have time. This sucks. I mean, people might get a kick out of this, and that's fine. I don't blame you if you like it. The whole titillating of the juices of your guilty pleasures or whatever the fuck. This has Vince McMahon written all over it, and it's just not good, and I just do not see it getting beyond a certain level. It might be funny for now. It might be, entertaining to some people, but I just don't see it getting beyond a certain point, and it just wastes so much television time. I mean, the last three stuff that closed this show were so fucking short because this went on for 3 times the length that all that other shit did. I mean, this went on forever. Marseille and Mansois walking out there, playing their tennis balls, but the tennis balls, I mean, I probably shouldn't say that, sounds weird, but showing off their tennis collection, rather, it's just not good, I'm sorry. Max Dupri's really, Dupri, or however the fuck you want to say it, he's really trying to make the most of it. He plays the role well. I give him credit for it, but this is going to crash and burn, and he'll be blamed for it, and he'll be punished, and he'll be fired. That's the only way I see this ending. If he can make it out of this thing a star, I'd be shocked. But the man is a star from every other respect. They just have to book him like one and make him look like one. All you had to do was take the character from NXT and put it on the main roster. It's really not that hard. It's not fucking rocket science. We had Lacey Evans attacking Aaliyah. So we were supposed to get a tag team match with Lacey Evans and Aaliyah versus Shayna Baszler and Shotzi. Completely random, I know. I guess maybe because Lacey and Shayna, I didn't think had issues. Aaliyah and Shotzi have for about a month or two. I think since May. Aaliyah was supposed to be in a Money in the Bank qualifier a few weeks ago, I think against Shotzi, and she got sick or something or hurt, and she's back now, obviously. She didn't wrestle here, but I assume she's fine. Otherwise, she wouldn't be on the show, I would think. And then I think Shotzi qualified instead. So Aaliyah was out here to team with Evans. Aaliyah was already in the ring. Evans comes out, does her entrance 3 times because she didn't get the reaction that she wanted. And then she went on to blame the fans for booing her, and she's an American hero, and they couldn't go through her struggles. I could see people getting on board with this. I just can't. I think it's so fucking dumb, personally, to exploit her story the way they did, and maybe it was her idea. I don't know. I asked her last week, was it her idea to do all that stuff, and she was on board with it. I don't know if it was her idea necessarily. But to talk about being abused and all this other stuff, I think she talked about being abused. I honestly don't remember, but having an addictive father and all this other shit, a father who left and died, to then, for us going to boo her, it just seems so fucking twisted to me. I mean, she's like, oh, I'm an American hero. Like, I don't know, it's not the Kurt Angle thing before anyone makes that comparison. Oh, it's like Kurt Angle when he talked about being a gold medalist. I mean, Kurt Angle wasn't out there talking about his addiction issues and wasn't talking about his rough upbringing that was legit, by the way, with her. So, it doesn't sit well with me. And to already turn her heel, people, I guess, want to boo her anyway, but it makes the fans look bad, too, for wanting to boo this woman that's gone through so much. If you don't care, that's one thing, but to boo her after the story that she shared, I mean, is pretty fucked up. And then the WWE, I guess, I mean, they'll ride with the boos when they want to, when it's convenient for them, because this has been the plan the whole fucking time, is to turn her heel. I guess they wanted to keep her babyface through the 4th of July holiday, have her lose a Money in the Bank, and then turn her heel. Just so fucking dumb. I'm sorry, I can't really get on board with this. Maybe she'll end up making the most of it, but I feel like we're just back to square one with her as a heel. She's already been a heel so much. I thought she did well as a babyface the last time a year and a half ago, 2-3 years ago. Why are we already going back to her being a heel? She plays the role well, yeah, but it got tired after a while. The Charlotte feud before she left sucked. I mean, to not even try with her as a babyface after all the stop and starts and the long vignettes, just to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, like I said, I just think it's fucking lazy. The Usos took on Los Lotharios, which I was excited to hear about. It was a championship contenders match. I figured the Usos weren't losing here because it was already announced earlier in the day on social media. It's going to be Usos and Profits in a rematch for the tag team titles. Hey, it's a match we've seen it many times before, but sign me the fuck up because they work so well together. The match in Money in the Bank was amazing. And it will have a stipulation, I believe. It's not going to be no holds barred, but... So Usos won here, obviously. And they were interviewed by Kayla Braxton afterward, who talked about, oh, you cheated. Which, I like Kayla, but that was stupid because they didn't cheat. The referee fucked up, and he didn't see the shoulder up for Montez Ford when the Usos were making the pinfall, count or whatever. So that's the referee's fault, not theirs. But it was noted by Kayla that the rematch at SummerSlam is going to have a special guest referee. Now, that person wasn't revealed here. Drew did come out for the main event match right after this. And I would think, okay, maybe it's going to be Drew, because I don't think Drew will be on this pay-per-view unless they do Drew in SummerSlam. It's do Drew and Sheamus rather at SummerSlam, which is very possible. I could totally see that being the case. I don't think they're going to do that though. Maybe they hold out to do the match on that show. I'm not 100% sure. But still, I could very well see it being Drew. I would love if they brought in someone more notable than that, like a Rikishi or someone along those lines. I don't see that being the case, like I said. With Drew, I could see that being much more likely. But, a Rikishi, I guess, would favor the Usos since he's their dad or uncle or whatever. I think it's their dad, right? I forget. I don't know who else would be in that spot unless it was Drew. So I guess we'll find out. I was honestly a little underwhelmed by the Usos and Lotharios. I thought they had a well-wrestled match. But the problem is that, it was only like 3 or 4 minutes long. I mean, Lotharios never really get a chance to showcase their skills. They're so much better than the company gives them credit for. It was a good match while it lasted, but I just wish we got it for longer than we did. So that was a bit disappointing that it wasn't longer. And then speaking of matches not being longer, we get to the main event. Drew McIntyre in what was supposed to be him and Sheamus in a match to determine the number one contender to the Undisputed title at SummerSlam, not at SummerSlam, at Clash of the Castle, which is not for another 2 months, by the way. But they were going to do that match right here, right now on this show. We get down to the last 5 minutes of the show. The match hasn't started yet. Sheamus claims he's come down with COVID. In WWE and storyline, why the fuck would they even let him in the building? Then again, you think to yourself, they let all those other people in the building with COVID and spread COVID all those years ago in the Thunderdome era, so it's really no surprise. But anyway, Sheamus says he's come down with COVID, which was weird because they don't really acknowledge COVID on WWE TV more often than not, so that was a little strange. And they used it as a fake excuse here to get out of a match. So that was a little odd, especially when COVID's still killing people, too. I thought that was a little strange. But Drew ended up facing Butch instead. And I don't think this, by beating Butch, he earns the title shot of the pay-per-view. Unless I missed something, I don't think that was the case. This was a straight-up 90-second squash for McIntyre beating Butch. Very disappointing for the first ever Pete Dunne-Drew McIntyre match. Butch is an absolute loser on the show. He's made to look like just a stepping stone for Sheamus' opponents, and that's about it. So that was very disappointing. And that closed out just a terrible second hour of SmackDown. The first hour was better. It was nice seeing Roman back, and the promo that Heyman cut was great. The Raiders were booked well. Nakamura and Kaiser was what it was. Just a lot of false advertising, making us think we were getting Nakamura and Gunther, and that didn't happen, which was understandable. But the pullout from the McIntyre and Sheamus main event, you promoted all day for very likely what was a storyline reason. I don't think Sheamus had COVID, but unless they found out at the last minute he couldn't go, that's just false advertising. So that's nothing new to this company. I get it, but not exactly something I would encourage doing. So that was SmackDown in a nutshell for July 8th, 2022. And again, like I said, just not a great show. It was what it was, and the main event was what it was, and it was only 90 seconds long. So certainly not my favorite edition of the show. But those are my thoughts on the July 8th, 2022 edition of SmackDown. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And also be sure to check out my exclusive interview right now with WWE Hall of Famer The Undertaker, available in video form from yesterday. Until then, guys, until next time, have an awesome one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.